Don't forget our gift cards at RitaYanez.com, and so am I. Under your bed. Turn on the light! Turn on the light! Turn on the light! Hi there, Libra. This is your weekly reading for the week of December 7th through 13th. How are you doing? I know you've had some stress. It's not going to be present for too much longer. You're actually going into a phase now that is going to set you up for an amazing year next year, especially for those of you that are going back to school or those of you that are out of school for a while and planning to go back. You're going to see how all of this is going to enrich your life. So get ready for a wonderful year, so don't sweat this week out too much. You're going to see how much better it gets for you as we move along. So starting off the week, we have a little bit of funky energy, and that is courtesy the Uranus-Pluto square that peaks on Sunday the 6th and Monday the 7th. And it is not exact anymore. It's separating, but it still is within a degree of exact. So, of course, this is kind of like that droning hum in the background that just doesn't seem to go away, and it gets a little louder every time you go into the hallway to cross to go to the bathroom kind of thing. So it's just been there, and it is being stimulated, of course, because we have a few other things going on. It's a cardinal T-square that will be basically more easily felt up until about that new moon on Friday the 11th. And so if you know your natal astrology and you have horoscope objects at 14 or 16 degrees, that's where you got to pay attention. Part of what is stimulating that Uranus-Pluto square is Mars in Libra, your solar first house. And again, if you know your natal horoscope, your natal astrology, then you'll be able to tell, depending on what your rising sign is, because of course you need to know your birth time accurately to be able to tell all of the rest. Then you could figure that out. But suffice it to say that we're going to just read your chart with solar astrology, basically putting Libra on the ascendant. So that's what kind of starts off the funky week. And it gets better as it goes along. And I'm sure, like I said, I know you've been stressed. It's not going to be difficult and terrible until Christmas or anything. It's just kind of what we're all going through. I could tell you stories about what the last month has been like for me. And then this weekend, it was almost like I was in a ring with the Punisher. It was just ridiculous. So I hear you. The Emperor in reverse here on Monday is talking about maybe a need to rebel. And it could be that you're rebelling against a real authority figure, such as your father. And if this card does represent your father, which it often does, then of course you need to choose your words carefully, because it's not necessary to disrespect an elder just because you can, or just because you're in the right. And even though most of the time I can say that it isn't fair when someone in authority disrespects you, there's that fine line between defending yourself, stating your case to, say, your father or some other father figure, or to go mano a mano, and just go into blows. It really isn't necessary to do that. So I'm not ameliorating how you feel or telling you that you should just grin and bear it, but if you can de-escalate whatever it is that is the potential, you're going to be better off anyway. You don't need to raise your blood pressure over people like this. Now, for those of you that don't have a father figure where this wouldn't apply, it could be really a tiny rebellion. Maybe you feel like just rebelling against the establishment or the government or against whatever you feel is oppressing you. And that is not very much like Libra, but Mars and Libra, it's really not the most comfortable dance, because Mars likes to incite a riot or start a new fitness program or stand up for themselves and the underdogs. Or in Libra, it could be Libra's like, can't we all just get along? And Mars is out there saying, no, we can't. And then, throwing blows. So Mars in Libra is also opposing Uranus in Aries here. Aries is opposite your solar first house of Libra. So in the seventh house, there could be a tiny rebellion about rebelling against your partner, your committed partnership, committed relationship. This is not just a dating thing. This would be for very established relationships that seem to function similarly to a marriage. So with that said, it could be a relationship that you have become the tyrant with the Napoleon complex. Maybe you are the one that is projecting your frustrations onto the other person because they're an easy target. And it could be vice versa, that they're doing this to you. Again, this is what stimulates that Pluto-Uranus square, Uranus-Pluto square, that you feel like you're just frustrated and this is getting to the boiling point. But really, we've already hit the boiling point. This is just where we're simmering, trying to get this soup to cool down on the stove so that we can start getting it into containers for storage, right? So have you ever dealt with a big pot of stew or chili or a big pot of anything and it needs to be refrigerated fairly quickly, but it's too hot to the touch? Well, that's where we're at. This is just hot to the touch. So don't feel bad about yourself if you feel like you are frustrated. The other way that this could work out as well is that you could act out toward your siblings, your cousins, neighbors, relatives, step siblings, half siblings, that kind of thing. Could be a brother that there is no blood relationship, or a sister that has no blood relationship, and yet you function like siblings. And there could be some frustrations here because Mars is making it difficult to have this conversation with you, between you and this other person. So it could be a relationship like a committed partnership, in which case you'd know who I'm talking about. It could be a business partner, another person that you are kind of conjoined to, and that you can't really come away from them whenever you feel like it, because the bond, imagine if you had a donut shop with this person and you kind of have to see each other all the time, to discuss business operations or even financial statements. So just know that this too shall pass. So, and also I want to say, and I'd warned my son, Monty is a Libra with an Aries rising, don't you know? I often tell him that Aries saves his life, but then at times he goes from being diplomatic to having a rage attack. And I have to tell him, oh, Lord, you could see where even as intelligent as some of the young people can be, they still are betrayed by their mental age or development, because the juvenile brain, you've heard me say it a million times before, it doesn't finish developing until 25 approximately. And my son is super hyper intelligent and creative, and at the same time he's learning to balance this real polarity of his two personality traits. The part that is the Aries ascendant, you can imagine that's number one, and then his Libra descendant, which is over that seventh house. He's a very, very sweet person, but I could totally see him losing his temper or having somebody else lose it on him. So just remember, if you do know your natal astrology, then you need to look up and see what your ascendant is so that you can figure out what degrees everything is placed at. And don't worry about it if you don't have it. I include this extra information because I love you, because I can. On Tuesday, the card that is here for you is the Four of Pentacles in reverse. So the Four of Pentacles is asking you to release your expectations. Don't hold on so tightly to a situation that is trying to evolve, to even just your ability to control things as well as you do. Relax a little bit. You don't have to have the white knuckle grip of death. So let the universe show you what it is that you're going to release, because then, the universe has something it's going to give you as a gift. And so whatever the situation is that's trying to change, it's doing so for your greater good. Maybe you're saying to yourself, oh my gosh, I've got this broken appliance, my car, my thing, my this or that. And maybe the lesson is to respect your resources more so that they're not pilfered away by another person or siphoned through a charity project, that one sibling that's always needing help or something such as this. Whenever we do help each other, which we always should when it's possible, and certainly between family members, these are the ways that tribes, primitively speaking, have been able to keep the village going, by helping each other. But there is also such a thing as going overboard and spending too much money or risking finances. In this case, it isn't really about holding on to the money or releasing the money. It's more about relaxing and letting your expectations evolve with your circumstances, all right? So on Tuesday, we also have Mercury in Sagittarius squaring the North Node in Virgo. And so that is your solar 12th house. So there's some reality check that is emerging for you to take stock. Don't feel like a failure either, because we all learn. I remember how quickly the realities of certain belief systems associated with resources altered when I went from being free and wild and crazy, married, chaperoned otherwise, and I had a ton of money to just blow. And I not only had my day job, I was working these other gigs and getting clothes through it and gifts through it and making money at different times through it. And then when the baby monster hit me, I remember bringing my son home from the hospital and deciding, I need my own house with my own nursery. Now what? And so I had these reality checks. And even though I was 26 and you'd think my brain was baked, that I had to come to realizations that if I wanted certain things for my baby, that I might have to make some adjustments. And certainly those happened very quickly, you can imagine. So also the sun in Sagittarius will trine Uranus in Aries. And so Sagittarius is your solar 3rd house. And Aries, of course, is your solar 7th house. So I think that there is a dynamic, an aspect to this relationship that will improve by way of communicating less forcefully. Some of you may need to tell your partner, spouse, mate, best friend to communicate with you more civilized. And if that's what the case is, let it happen, because it looks like there's great improvement that comes just from adjusting the communication dials. On Wednesday, we have the Fool in reverse. This card talks about using precaution. And I feel I need to say an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. There's a saying that's something like that, which is, okay, so if you're faced with an emergency or a financial emergency or a bind, an issue, a complex current scenario, don't just solve it by slapping the salve on it. It would benefit you to also extract the lesson and take preventive measures so that in future, whatever this is, doesn't happen again. Now, along the lines of what kind of an interaction it could be, the sun in Sagittarius squares Chiron in Pisces. So sun is in your 3rd house. Pisces is your 6th house. Chiron in your 6th house is direct. So there's a lesson about the 6th house that has to do with your daily activities, your health, even your eating habits, how you take care of the body, the job that you do every day to get the paycheck that you spend on stuff for the 2nd house, the money that you make to do whatever you do with the money. So there's a realization here that I think could really have to do with your workaday sector, with what you do for a living or how you do it, that you're realizing, hey, you know what? I have to come to this realization that I need more skills. I realize that this is a dead-end job and it doesn't really make me happy. I'm awesome at baking rolls and cakes and buns. And, I've always wanted to be a baker and have my own cute little shop with, pink truffles and mint and pink barber pole, outside. Whatever it is that your dream is, take steps, at least at this stage, to daydream about how you could bring that to reality. How do you manifest this thing? It doesn't mean that you have to decide to take action tomorrow, immediately, right now, like my son. Everything has to be now. These are things that we think about. We have time. Don't let yourself be pressured. Don't let yourself be pressured. Think about the things that you have to do first. We're just going through the holidays. December is slow, at least here in the United States, and a lot of other countries in the Northern Hemisphere. So there's no rush. Mercury is going to move into Capricorn, your solar fourth house of home and family. So I think it would behoove you to communicate calmly with somebody at home, whoever is this person that you vent to, whether it's a sibling, a roommate, a girlfriend, your mother, your brother, your uncle's father's dog, whatever that is. Communicate on a real level about your considerations, and maybe ask a person that you trust for feedback, and listen to that feedback and extract what you believe is helpful. And you can store the rest. You don't have to discard it. But considering that the Fool is about trying to make a new start, but the universe says, no, not quite yet. That's okay. There's no hurry. I think the older I get, the more I realize that I have never been a person to rush through things. I am not the person to light a fire under my ass, because I'll just kick you in the crotch. I'm really the type of person that as I get older, even more so, I become very leisure. I don't like to be rushed. And if anybody has some pressing situation, I'm just going to sit there and blow imaginary smoke rings, because we're on my clock. We're on my time, and I don't wear a watch, you guys. On Thursday, the card that you've drawn is the Eight of Pentacles in reverse. And again, this gives me some indication that there's an issue about the kind of work you do, for the pay you earn. And for many of you who are retired, obviously this still applies to you, in that you are managing your resources on a daily basis, budgeting, almost like the accountant or CPA of your own firm, your own company. And so remember, you're still doing these things. And especially if you're raising grandchildren, or if you have children that are college age or younger, you're still advising, still helping. These factors would still come into play. Thursday, the Pentacles here, this Eight of Pentacles in reverse, is talking about feeling, at times you could say to yourself that you're bored with your job, or that you work your work, and you don't seem to get ahead. There's nothing wrong with taking a part-time job. If you have a pressing situation and you're not in college, and you've got a day job and you need some more hours, ask for overtime. And or if you have other skills that could be used in different ways, like maybe you're one hell of a tree lopper and there are branches that need to be pruned back here in winter, so there's a lot of different things that you could do. It doesn't mean that you have to brainstorm that hard, because I think the opportunities will come to you. But I think that this card is really talking more of a realization that you really want more, that it's not just about the money to pay the job, but it could be the money to pay the job, the relationship, the entertainment factor, needing to communicate, needing to really be with other people and feel that you're valuable or contributing in some way. Maybe some of you just need to go to a poetry reading club and share your art and be a part of that scene. There's so many ways to break up the doldrums, that you don't have to feel like, well, look, I'm just at the shoe sneaker factory. Reminds me of some scenes out of the movie Jumanji, if you remember that, with our sweetheart, rest in peace, Robin Williams. It was freaking hilarious. And really, this guy had a brilliant idea. You guys would recognize him from In Living Color, if you know who I'm talking about, the guy who ends up being a cop. But my point with this is to say that you might just be bored on a spiritual level. Maybe things are just not exciting enough. I mean, imagine being my son with Aries rising, and this is adventure man, so he really needs to be allowed to go on adventures, hike Kilimanjaro, whatever it is he needs to do. His partner will always have to be somewhat understanding. He'll start a lot of things, and he needs that kind of excitement. And I think that's what you might need, Libra, is some excitement. Maybe you just need a new I almost hate to say this in case, well, my son listens to these. I don't want him to get yet another hobby. It's a good thing he's got money, because if not, this would be really expensive. So the truth is here that Mars in Libra will oppose Uranus in Aries. And that already is a little bit weird, again, because Mars in Libra just is, it's not my favorite thing. Venus is in Scorpio, I think, here at this point, and will be trining Neptune in Pisces. So I got to tell you this. You might feel like you need to switch jobs like yesterday, and I wouldn't do that right now. Neptune, wherever Neptune is, our clouded judgment prevails. So in your sixth house, people could be promising you the moon, or, your long lost cousin wants to start a bread baking business. And you're like, what, now, today, yesterday? They're like, yes, I'm so fired up. This is so great. Well, are we selling Amway now? What? Is this sham wow? What are we so excited about? There's no hurry. So remember that there's an element of deception here, and it could be that if somebody's offering you another job or offering you something, extending some invitation to do X, Y, Z, remember that things might not be what they appear. And Venus in Scorpio helps you acquire shiny things, kind of like those crazy crabs in Florida. Have you seen that? They're freaking huge. It's kind of like, the Jurassic Park size crustacean walking around the streets, and they're just trying to steal shiny crap. So, the issue is that we could excite you about money, or you could become excited, even sweaty, about buying some new luxury item. And I can guarantee you that this probably isn't the time to do that, especially if it relates to a contract, a deal that's big, a thing that's hard to return. There's a big difference between buying a giant TV that you can return to Best Buy, and at most you're going to get hit with the restocking fee from a certain period to another. Or worst thing is you forget to get that protection, and then your karate kid, just like does a roundhouse and busts out the screen or something. You got to think about that. But there is a real element here that there could be some deception in what is being presented to you. And it reminds me of the proverbial car salesman, the used car salesman. No offense. I love everybody, so I don't really necessarily like my idea that I've got a stereotype in my head from Matilda, Danny DeVito. If you've seen that, you know what I'm talking about, because that's what I'm thinking. So again, you might be turned on by some luxury item, like I just finished telling my son, because he needs a new car most likely, and we've got all these other considerations. And I said, and right now, no, it doesn't make me feel good. I'm not even comfortable with this, because now we're going into the territory where Mercury is going into the pre-shadow phase. And like anything else, right? Would you buy a house in a hurry? Would you get, some people do get married in a hurry, but would you get invested in a new car, something that is now impossible to, I tell people, as soon as you drive that thing off the lot, it is yours. And unless you can get somebody to buy it off of you quick, which probably isn't going to happen, you are stuck with it. That's one of the issues here, that the Eight of Pentacles, the energy of it on Thursday could get you wanting more for your coins. You just really feel like, okay, so I'm tired of wearing these zirconia earrings. I love them. You know why? Because I lose stuff, and I've lost diamonds before. So I probably made at least one person with my septic tank very wealthy. I'll have to tell you a story one day about what my 17-year-old did when he was a wee little boy, which was my fault, because I had my makeup trunk and I had some very expensive and jewelry that couldn't be replaced. And it ended up, guess where, in the toilet. I fished out what I could from the poop water. It was just insane. The rest, I said, screw it, flushed the toilet, and thought, well, one day maybe some primitive people investigating this might go digging into my septic tank and find that I left a lot of crap. Not crap literally, but my diamonds are down there. So on Friday, we've got the new moon in Sagittarius, your solar third house. So again, I see the little light bulb going off over your head. I need that shiny thing, Rita. You have no idea. Pots, pans, I got to have them like a crab. Well, the thing is that if it's reasonable, and you will be fine just buying some pots and pans at one of these Bed Bath and Beyond stores or something. I'm not pimped, so remember, I just threw that out there. But if you were going to commit to a couple of $100 worth of stainless steel at Costco, at least they'll take it back no matter what. But if you get involved in a big shiny vehicle and walk away with it, you can make a big mistake, because this moon is somewhat, I don't want to say it's tainted. It's very exciting. That's what I think is kind of dangerous. You guys, Libra, you guys are very excitable people. If everything is pretty much stock, off the showroom floor, you guys are very excitable people. The Nine of Wands in this position is begging you to be wary. I almost want to talk about a Trojan horse, and then I don't. And I want to say things like caveat emptor. And I think I'll reiterate that. Caveat emptor, buyer beware. So just be very careful, because 'tis the season to buy stuff that you wish you didn't after it's too late. And, like the whole gym membership thing. How many people do you know? I remember back in the day, and this is way back in the day, and Bally's Total Fitness. You're never getting out of that one. On Saturday, the Six of Cups here indicates that if you cherish the memories and you find happiness and peace and satisfaction just in your own world, in your own way, you're going to be just fine. Now, this card could literally indicate that there is a love interest from the past that resurfaces, or you just can't get her out of your mind. Something like this happens. That's okay. I would give you the same warning. Caveat emptor. Surgeon General suggests you don't lose your mind over a pretty face, because it's really where you need to research things and check things out to make sure that people are who they say they are. Now, your fifth solar house being Aquarius doesn't really concern me too much. I think that rekindling old relationships has to be very well thought out, because with Venus and Scorpio, if it becomes a sexual relationship, Taurus across the sky, Taurus is ruling planet in the second house, and Scorpio's ancient ruler in the first house. We could have somebody who's just like, I don't know, it reminds me of some song lyrics by Madonna. She's licking her lips, and I'm thinking, boy, she's just going to trick you into something. So be very careful. Again, no need to speed up the pace. Now, if you like living on the edge and you know perfectly well that you are not going to overinvest yourself emotionally, that you're just going to go dating or friending, I tell people to just go friending and see how it goes. But this person's situation may not be as clarified as you think they would. Like, you'd think that if they're still married, they'd let you know. Are you kidding me? Not everybody will tell that kind of truth. So even though we know it sucks to find it out, well, then as soon as you find out, yeah, okay, so to the curb. You can be picked up tomorrow when the trash truck comes by, because I don't want it. So just make sure that you're being mindful of these things. The Six of Cups is also an indication that somebody from your past that you had a very good relationship with could be on your mind. And it could be just a childhood friend, or somebody from your past is somebody that you haven't seen in a long time comes back into your life, and you take some comfort there. I think that that's a good thing. I would just be wary if it's a lover from the past, because you have to think about it. I really do believe this very strongly, and I've made many mistakes with this. Giving at least one person, I could actually tell you that it was only one person who ever got a second shot at me, and I lived to regret ever having given this person a second shot. And I should have known, because I forgot my own sage words. I forgot that whenever you're considering going back to somebody that you broke it off with, you got to remember why you broke it off in the first place. I'm almost a little more free to say that people who have children and try to get back together, that I think we would all clap and say, give it a shot, just give it a shot, but do it away from the children so that they don't get their hopes up until if you could deal with this, right? Because kids, they really would much rather see their parents divorced, separate homes, happy, living happy lives, and keeping them as the priority than to see them engaged in what we call the War of the Roses, which has a funny story to it. But I think that you're okay if these thoughts just come and go, if it's melancholy and bittersweet, but there are smiles there between the reverie, then you can feel pretty good about that. I wouldn't be too worried about it. Sunday, we've got the 10 of Swords in reverse. And so I know you're like, what the hell? But the 10 of Swords in reverse is not really a terrible card. The 10 of Swords is talking about the worst that can happen already has. I'm not saying that next week you're just going to have more shit happening. I'm just saying to remember. And in fact, again, I'm thinking of my son because today I told him we've already been through all the worst. You've already seen the worst. I can't really think of too much more that's more horrible than this because unless we start thinking about God bless the families of the victims who have died in the shootings and these bizarre types of terror. You know, these people are just freaking idiots is really what it comes down to. I would like to just give them carte blanche and say, you guys are just freaking crazy. You know what I mean? As soon as we identify you, we should just like tie cement shoes. I shouldn't say that. But you see what I'm saying? We could think of a lot worse things that can happen than, the things that we've been through. And there are people that have lost children to dreaded diseases. And, you and I are still breathing and here. And once you've seen a lot of the worst things that could have happened to you or thus far have, then you're okay because, like me, I've been through such things that I think I can say the only thing in life that could ever scare the crap out of me or devastate me would be to, knock on wood, lose one of my children or have something horrible happen to them. I would rather die 1,000 Chinese torture deaths before anything like that would happen. And I mentioned that to my son that I said, you've already seen the worst. This is nothing. This is like a cakewalk, what he's adjusting now. Now he has to consider, something so terrible. Which car will he buy? How will he do it? And he's a good boy. He listens to mom, so of course I'm talking to him about all this stuff saying, we're going to read all the consumer reports. We're going to do this on terms that leave you in control, not the other way around. So the 10 of Swords could be also where you're learning to heal from some of the stress you've been through. And I think that that's easy to understand. You guys went through your Saturn transit when Saturn was in Libra. Lord, you're coming off of that and then Saturn tours Scorpio, which is one sign in front of you. Ooh, and Libra and Scorpio, I am so sorry because I can tell you that sucked. It's so healing and revealing and transformative, but not everybody wants to pretend they're a Scorpio. And I tell people, please don't come play in our sandbox. You don't even want this. Look, I warn them, scare them off and say, this is a kitty litter box. We're not playing here. So I think that you have been through a lot of instabilities that have really shaken you to the core. But the thing is that Mercury is going to be moving into Capricorn, your solar 4th house. And when Mercury moves there, it will help you become more structured, whether in your thinking, your studies, your business practices, even your budgets and how you run your home, how you manage it. Maybe your physical home actually needs some attention, like windows, maybe there's plumbing problems. I could tell you, I could make you a laundry list of the stuff that Rita gets to play handyman doing. And I'm so stubborn, I would have it no other way. My son will be like, you're not going to change the spark plug switch. Oh, hell yes. And then I'm thinking, I'll go in there and, and do it like a boss. But things are going to be easier for you to manage after we get past this new moon in Sagittarius, your solar 3rd house. But remember, this could be where you really are thinking about what's across the sky from you. So like I said, many of you will be coming to terms with realizations like, I got to go back to school. I don't even know what I want a degree in, but I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to start. You don't have to be in a brick and mortar school. And now, like I've told so many of you, you can go to school online, but even better now than when I did, part of it is that now you can actually find online university that offers extremely fluid schedules. So you don't have to actually show up for a lecture on this day at 10 o'clock, making life almost impossible unless your ass is glued to a chair. So there's a lot of hope and positivity coming to you, Libra. I know that was a lot to give you, but I noticed myself that there's a lot going on with you. And I think that this is a critical week in that I want you to be very conscious because there's going to be lots of realizations, lots of maturity here, lots of real consideration. And for most of you that are not criminally insane, most of these realizations are going to be, hey, look, I got to take control of my life. I've got to do this. If I want to be with a person like this, I've got to do that. If I really want to feel secure and not feel like this anymore, then I got to start setting my foundation, which means from here to the end of 2015, Libra, you're going to get your shovel. You're going to start digging your trenches to pour the footings for your foundation. And you know what? The rest of us are going to be in there with you. And if you ask any of us to help you out with it, we'll grab a shovel and start digging with you. So have a wonderful, wonderful week. And I'll be talking to you soon. Love you guys.